Welcome to the Broken Network Podcast, episode 5. Uh, this is my fat friend Tom. He is portly and willing, um, just like some girls I know. uh, we're going to be talking about anger tonight. Um, we we've both dealt with a lot of anger issues in our own lives, and Tom's a particularly angry bitch. Um,
Sure.
but no, so what are some of your thoughts? How would you like to open us up on anger, Tom?
It's interesting. Everyone kind of deals with it in a different way. Some people turn it inward and get depressed and lonesome and angry. And then some people definitely turn it outward and go ballistic and violent and loud and screaming. And some people are a little bit of both. And at least in my experience, anger's really never solved anything. Not once.
I mean, even the best fighters aren't angry fighters.
No.
Professional fighters, they're cool, calm, and collected. And anger is like a spirit, it's like a passion, it's like a principality that kind of invades all of us at times and takes over. Um I I've cooled down a lot in my older age, but I used to have a hairpin trigger. Tom can attest to this, where I would just somebody would say something and I would just be like,
0 to 100, dude.
and I would immediately turn it inward and I you would just see it on my face. And um I don't know what it was from. I don't know if it was because I was young or whatever, but it's smoothed out a lot over the years. Um
His
and
anger's turned to ugliness, mostly.
yes, I'm mostly ugly.
Yeah.
But um as far as anger goes, it's it's one of those things that is no profit. Um, there can be justified anger, but it needs to be expressed in the right kind of way. Um, and the more you turn anger outwards, the more you turn anger outwards. Just like the
Yeah.
more you turn anger inwards, the more you have the tendency to do that. So it's, in my opinion, about catching yourself and trying to calm down and really ease into a better mindset.
Well,
More,
it warps your whole reality, especially if you live with it for a long time. The way you see the world is very different if you hold on to a lot of anger from what it actually is. It leads to a lot of cynicism, skepticism, lack of trust, and you just kind of your whole viewpoint on life gets extremely warped when you live very angrily. And I think it becomes toxic to everyone around you. You are like a distended version of yourself, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Uh,
like
you,
inflamed.
yeah, you become like butter over too much bread. You're inflamed, you're out of control, you're haphazard, uh, and you don't think critically. And then your friend circle becomes something where you just either make fun of people with other people or just rag on someone or bitch about someone. And your whole world turns negative the more anger you hold on to. Um,
And I think a real passive aggressive way of being angry for women is gossiping. Um, I think gossip is very negative. My mother has always spoken against gossip and has never gossiped herself. And I mean, I don't know because I'm not a woman, but gossiping is like it's not your business. So butt out. If you're angry with a person, talk to them. If you're upset with a person, you have anything against them, go talk to them and be like, hey, look, you did this to me, or you said this, or whatever. And try not to be provocative um, in your approach because that doesn't help either. If you trying to provoke anger is another form of anger.
Yeah. Don't be looking for a fight all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Don't be starting shit with everyone in your house all the time, you know? And honestly, if you hold on to anger, that resentment, that'll just poison you for years and years and years and years, and it'll make you age quick. 100%. And
Yeah.
then once
I
you're angry,
mean,
you do stupid shit. You behave recklessly. And you can also slip into addiction. You can also slip into isolation. You can slip into once that anger, once that energy from that anger is gone, it turns into depression.
yeah.
Once you've
And
expended that angry energy, then you're just depressed every time.
yeah, because you're training your brain not to be joyous and grateful. You're training your brain to see all the negatives and be in a prison or a tomb of negativity.
And with the anger, you can become a slave to your own thoughts and build a certain level of paranoia in your head where you're trying to see a reality that isn't there. You're almost delusional
It's like
when
being
you're,
high. It's
yeah,
like being addicted to a
being
drug,
angry.
being angry. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Absolutely,
Um,
100%.
and it's a coping mechanism for a lot of people, instead of looking at yourself and seeing how you can make something better or looking at the situation in a constructive way, using anger to just cut it down is a lot easier. It's like a sword instead of a hammer, you know.
It's the
There's
easy way out too.
yeah.
It's a
Um
way of not dealing with it and victimizing yourself when you get angry. And then you just put on the show for no one's benefit. It literally benefits nobody. You freaking the fuck out. I mean, what's that solve? Okay, you're angry. And what? That's it? That doesn't solve anything. That doesn't help anybody.
I
Does
saw
it
a good
make us less
quote.
broken? No.
I saw a good quote the other day. It said, "If you're angry at the world will surely not notice."
Yeah,
So,
absolutely right.
what is it if I guess to tie in anger, you have to look at your mindset and how you view things in general and how you view the world and other people. Um, because anger is just like a quick twitch mechanism for most people, and understanding is a lot harder. Understanding is the true way because understanding requires critical thought. It requires removing yourself from your own body and putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It requires empathy, which the world is really lacking right now. And I don't mean empathy in some kind of DEI way. I mean empathy in a very real way where it's like,
Yeah.
all right, what are you going through?
Like,
Truly.
what's up? Yeah. I mean, anger can be used in the sense where people have had a lot of success with anger, but not in the right way. When people are angry and are in control of other people, those people operate from a place of fear rather than respect or a willingness to work. They just don't want to get their ass kicked or fired or whatever. For example, look at a guy like Gordon Ramsay. Very successful, highly intelligent, extremely angry and abusive, at least in his younger days. And he learned that at home and he precipitated it in his work environment. And that anger and that passion did produce a good result. But what was the net result on those people? Yeah, the food was good, but those people are scarred for life from that. they got abused by that guy. And
Right.
then anger, he used that anger to go for that sore spot that he was able to pick up on everybody.
You panic.
Panic. I mean, or just he went right for the throat every time. And when you see someone like that and you see that level of operation, uh, people can internalize those angry things said. And the people that have said those things have long forgotten that they said it. But you didn't. You didn't. People don't know the effects that it has on people. And this is something that we have to be really cognizant of because those things can leave really deep scars when someone goes ballistic. You know what I mean?
Instead of cutting someone down, why not build someone up?
Yeah.
Anger can be like good and like, hey, this is serious, but you can be serious without cutting someone down and using your anger.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's all about how you approach talking with that person and communicating with that person or that group of people. Um, you know, as far as like let's talk about Donald Trump for a minute.
Sure.
Do I think he's probably the best candidate? Maybe. But the way he deals with things, he's like a bull in a china shop. He's he doesn't do himself any favors by
No,
making fun of people and cutting other people down,
no.
and it's a detractor to his main goal, and it
Yes.
turns a lot of people off, whether
I
you like
mean,
his
he can't
policies
get
or
out of
not.
his own way.
Right, he can't get out of his own way. Exactly.
Regardless, politics and political opinions aside, okay, if you look at the behavior, most of it is horrible. Um, this isn't a policy discussion. This is an example showing, okay, this man shits on everyone around him all the time. And then all the world notices. And has that anger done anything to help that man? Nope, not at all. It's cost him dramatically. Do you think he'd have this many lawsuits against him if he wasn't such an asshole all the time? Absolutely not. They wouldn't be going for his throat like this. Because he's so obstinate, he's so aggressive, he's so corrosive. Um, and it's a bad example, to be
There's a
honest,
difference between
sadly.
knocking the door down and knocking on the door.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and a little bit of diplomacy goes a really long way.
yeah.
Um, as you know, when when we take the time to sit and reflect on ourselves and we look at the golden rule of most religions, treat others as you wish to be treated. Do you want someone screaming at you? Do you want someone punching you in the face? Do you want someone cutting you down and poking you in the most sensitive spots? No, it's very simple. Um, you
But
don't
let's
have to
let's
be a
look at it
religious
this way.
person to understand that.
Let's look at it this way. Let's talk about it in a practical sense. So, all of us are fucked up, right? All
Sure.
of us have had terrible shit happen to us, yada, yada, yada. We've been broken down, beat up, felt like shit. Okay. And the vast majority of us, I'm sure, have lashed out at people that don't deserve it when we were fighting our own battles in our head. So, and a lot of times we've been angry at ourselves for a situation, but in a lot of ways we've been angry at the cards life has dealt us, and we've handled it the wrong way. Um, for instance, look at the way that, like we were just talking about Donald Trump. But there's ways for us to manage our anger without kneecapping somebody. Um, I have found, now this is going to sound stupid, But hear me out. Rigorous physical exercise will 100% tame those demons for a time. If you put out so hard in terms of physical effort, you will literally short out and forget what you were angry about. I promise you. Um, maybe this won't work for everybody, but it is a tool that is so self-evident that a lot of us overlook it.
Yeah, if you
Uh,
want to get out piss and vinegar, the gym is a great place to do that
right. I mean, God damn,
in a
you can put a
constructive
lot of
way
that
where you can
fucking
build
hateful
yourself up.
energy into your workout, instead of pouring it into your spouse or your children or your friends or your parents, you know, you don't have to internalize it and make yourself sick. Okay. You don't have to internalize it and become a monster in your head. That is the wrong fucking thing. I did it for years and I paid for it a lot. Um, and that's not something we need to be doing. There is a different way to do that. And you also don't have to get fucking strung out every time you get angry or hammered. You don't have to get lit up every time you get pissed off. Uh, because the problems are still there once you wake up. They haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah,
You just
it's
now have
like
a
pressing the
headache.
pause button that only lasts so long.
Yeah.
You know, the game resumes right after that unpause,
Yeah.
and
And then when
you're
you get
left
lit,
with less time. You feel shittier, literally, metaphorically, spiritually. You feel dull. You
and then
know,
you act like more of an
addiction,
asshole, make the situation worse.
yeah, I mean, addiction and anger and all kinds of personality problems go hand in hand. And Tom and I have dealt with them personally on a very personal level and together. You
Yeah.
know, we've always been very honest with each other. And
Yeah.
Tom was an alcoholic when he was in his early 20s, and he just discovered alcohol. It was like the best thing that's ever happened to him. And then it ruined part of his life for a while, you know?
Well, you know what? The addictions can lie to you, especially if you're angry, and they tell you that this will make you feel better socially, that'll make you think clear. This certain type of drunk or this certain type of high, I'm going to figure it out once I do it tonight. Then I'm done, right? And especially when you're angry, if you have that trigger and that coping that mechanism of going to your poison, then it becomes an automatic thing. My mom said hello to me this morning the wrong way. I'm gonna go get loaded. It's like, okay, that's not gonna fucking solve anything either. Um, so part of understanding what anger actually is helps you deal with it a lot better. It's a passion about something that you don't think is right or an offense, and it's just a hot way to solve nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely
they
nothing.
say that you see red when you're angry for a reason, and that's because you're coloring everything with your anger. You're
Yes.
it's a spirit that all of humanity deals with.
Yes. And if we don't mitigate it, it's gonna fucking take over you in a second. We've both had, people around us that have used that as the go-to problem solving mechanism. And all it did was make it much, much worse. And in a family setting, there's no place for anger. Not to where it cuts people down. There's no place for it. In a family, no one does any, people don't try to spite you on purpose or hurt you or mess up on purpose. So if you deal with children, especially in a very angry way because you're having a bad day or you don't want to deal with it, that'll leave a mark on them that never goes away.
Yeah,
So it's
and
not
they'll
worth it.
become people pleasers, or they'll become passive, or they'll become angry themselves. I mean, children learn, they're sponges. So they pick up and learn what their parents do to them and around them all the time. And if you want your child to be hitting people and yelling at people and angry all the time and
Or
have
just be a
a bad
drug addict.
attitude, or just be a drug addict
Yeah.
because they can't deal with their anger anymore and they're old enough
No.
to get drugs,
Yeah.
which is now becoming younger and younger,
It's nuts.
um, then by all means treat them that way. But if that's not your goal, then you have to do some serious thinking about yourself and your own anger issues. And
Yeah.
therapy is there for a reason.
And
And
angry music's there for a reason too.
yeah, angry music. Me and Tom love heavy metal, death metal, metalcore, thrash, deathcore, you name it. We listen
Alex
to,
Terrible, let's hang out. I'm Tom.
yeah, Tom is a big fan of Alex Terrible. He especially likes how he smashes his microphone against his head.
I mean, let's sidetrack for a second. You want to talk about anger, okay? That guy smashes a microphone into his forehead until it bleeds.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's a little unresolved anger. Who knows? But I'm not a doctor. But
No, you're
that
just a Chris Farley lookalike.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I think Chris Farley should have done metal. Oh God, that would have been hilarious because he could scream,
Yeah, exactly.
not like screamo scream, like actually shout and yell because he was very Irish.
Right.
Me too. So I can scream. We're working on a thing called we're actually going to keep that a secret for now. But music's a great way. If you have one, get in your car, put on some Lorna Shore loud, and just drive around and tell me you don't feel better.
Or put on some Viking by
Slaughter to prevail.
Slaughter to Prevail.
I'll tell you what I do when I'm furious, okay? Or used to do. I would go to the gym, and there's something called a belt squat machine, where it's you get a belt that's wrapped around your hips, and there's a chain going down to a holder on a little lever, and it's weighted, okay? So I can't squat regularly anymore because my back is shot. Um, but I would I would get in that squat machine, put a ton of weight on it, like a weight that I wasn't sure I could get.
He really squats a lot of weight. It's no joke.
And I would put on stuff like Viking or Return to Nothingness by Lorna Shore, maybe some Human Abstract, maybe some Lamb of God. And I would put all the fucking hatred into the bar, all of it. And when you put that negative energy into something like that, you can make unbelievable strides. You can turn that angry energy into making yourself an absolute savage. And I mean that. I really, really mean that. That's what I did. I was like, well, I'm a big fat ass. I better be strong. And so I started lifting. And I'll tell you what, when you exert yourself in a squat set or a deadlift set,
Tom would lift to the point of vomiting.
yeah, 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 yeah. Now you don't have to go
You don't have
that
to go that hard
unless you want to, but
unless you want
uh,
to. But that's how much anger he had.
well,
That's how
well,
much.
and the deal is when you're done with a set like that, you see stars. You're like, you kind of almost fall over, and you're like, what was I mad about? It's almost like a short out. I mean it, and that's a little bit unhealthy, but Hey, call it the broken network. I'm giving you another option.
Right. It's better than hitting your wife.
You know, just be careful. Be careful. That's why I like the belt squat because if you fail, you're not going to die. Um, and you're not going to kill yourself. But whatever exercise you want, whether it's running, maybe you do the Stairmaster or bench press or just something where you can focus all that negative energy into making yourself better, right? And then you have achieved something you didn't think you could do physically with that energy. That's a big turnaround.
All right, 1 second.
Sure. Sure. That's a huge turnaround in your life. Um, I find that turning that energy is the only way to solve it. It's almost like in and out. You take the anger from the situation, it goes into your spirit, and then you push it back out.
It's
That's
like
the way I see it in
wushu.
my head. Hmm?
It's like the idea of wushu or
Yeah,
chi.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, chi is the natural energy you have in your body, and that's why a lot of like people practice Tai Chi. It's because it's concentrating that energy. It's learning to use it in a constructive way, whether that's exercise or for a more spiritual reason. Um, some of the greatest, you know, martial artists of all time are said to have a very high level of chi. And I don't know whether it's not a very scientific thing, but
It's a
it's
strong spirit.
right. It's about the spirit and the energy of the body and self-control and temperance.
You want to look at a guy who used that angry energy in a short amount of time to achieve great things. Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah.
He could play ping pong with nunchucks.
Yeah.
Okay. You want about, he had a rough life. You want to talk about taking that negative energy and making it into something positive. There you go. Okay. Or look at a guy like Eddie Hall, who was a uh world's strongest man and had deadlift world record. He was from a shitty place in England. He was an angry motherfucker, kicked out of school, got in fights all the time, right? Lots and lots of drugs, lots of pregnancy, shit like that. He's a fuck up. He's a diesel mechanic, but he was furious. And he turned all that negative energy into making himself literally the beast, right? So what we got to do is instead of internalizing it and calling yourself a piece of shit and getting angry and those angry thoughts about people or about yourself, do something
Yeah.
productive with it.
Right.
The easiest way is physical activity, but there are other ways too, right?
Read a book.
Yeah,
Just
journal.
sit down and find your zone and read something that's meaningful. Read or anything. If you like fantasy, if you like romance, not my personal favorite, but whatever. Yeah, don't look at me like that. Um,
He's got 50 Shades of Grey in his bathroom.
yeah, I use it for different reasons.
Yeah.
No, just
I get
kidding.
it.
Um,
Yeah, it's because
but
you go to a rave.
yeah, if it's not reading, maybe listening to a podcast that's
Good, not like this one.
yeah, exactly. Good podcast. Um, I don't know. There's a million things you can do instead of being angry. And
Put on a mindless video game.
yeah, go play some Zelda or Mario
Diablo.
Odyssey
Kill shit in your TV.
or or Dark Souls or whatever you're
That'll
in.
make you more angry. Hold up. Dark Souls, wait. That was bad advice. Don't play Dark Souls because you're gonna want to kill yourself. First of all, you're angry, and then you just died 15 times. Then you've lost half your health bar. Okay. Now you're back where you started. You're worse off. Don't play Dark Souls. Play
Right.
something, anything but a Souls game.
Yeah, anything but a Souls game. Um, but yeah, play some video games or you know, listen to music or whatever. Paint a picture. Draw what you're feeling. Journal. Journaling is great. I don't do it enough. I used to do it I used to practice it pretty often and I would go back and read it and I'd be like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, what frame of mind was I in? Especially if
I've
you
seen
go,
lots of your frames of mind. They're different.
yeah, well, I am a schizophrenic, so,
Hey,
but
I didn't, I
that's,
didn't, I didn't offer that information. You did.
but that's a reason for me to be angry, right? At the cards I was dealt as a schizophrenic. I have to take medication that makes me gain weight. I eat one meal a day to combat it. I've been losing weight. Okay, I'm learning to cope, but I could be very angry all the time because I'm
Oh yeah, and
schizophrenic.
he's done lots of different coping mechanisms,
Right.
lots and lots and
You
lots
know,
of
I've
those.
I've tried every coping mechanism,
Yep.
and I've found that the best way that I cope is through spirituality and religion and trying to be the best person that I can be regardless of the cards I was dealt. Um,
Yes.
and you know, I'll tell you what, when I'm unmedicated, it's like stepping into a whole different realm. It's like being in a world that you don't recognize and everything is chaos. And how do you cope with that? Thank
Yeah.
God for medication.
Yeah.
Thank God for antipsychotics and antidepressants.
Yeah.
And I've just started taking Alpha Brain, which really helps me with memory and recall and cognition. And
And your energy, as a frame of reference, his energy is most certainly up from
yeah,
what it used to be.
yeah, absolutely. And a big part of that is quitting marijuana or weed or pot or whatever you want to call it. But it's more than that. It's also taking care of yourself. It's not just getting rid of the bad things. It's
Right.
you have to replace anger with something else, and that's why we're talking about coping mechanisms.
And once you stop using, the deal is you'll actually see your anger for what it is and why it's there.
And how shallow it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the monkey on your back prevented you from actually coping with it because you needed to put that above all things.
Yeah, it
And
was your
so,
idol.
yeah, and it's a shitty idol. No matter what you're tethered to, it could be drugs or a person, an activity, um, all that obsession will lead you to a very high level of anger over very little things. If someone, look at these people who we call spoiled, right? They have a hairpin trigger over the smallest of things, right? Like if their toast was a little burnt, they freak the fuck out. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
it's
yeah,
like, do we want to
let's
be like
yell at the
that?
waiter.
Karens at a waiter make me bananas.
Oh
This
God.
guy is getting like $3 an hour. You think he gives a shit about your food? If you're nice to these guys, throw them a nice back. It's real easy. It's not that hard. Instead of being an angry dickhole and being self-righteous. Well,
And
I
that
get I
goes
get
for
fries
everyone.
too.
If you're nice, if you put out
Yeah.
kindness, you'll get kindness back most
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah. Instead of being an angry prick all the time.
And that
Yeah.
can really change the way you see the world.
It certainly has for me.
Jesus said you reap what you sow.
Well, the deal is you see many different shades instead of just red. And then you're not thinking everyone's out to get you. And you're not paranoid. And you're not looking You're not playing games with your head with people before you even talk to them. You're just kind of seeing the world for what it is outside of that shitty lens you were at,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like life's just a lot more fun when you don't, when you're not a ballistic asshole, really. Your world really opens up. It does.
Yeah,
And
and it helps you to get a more constructive type of attitude, which will benefit you far more than you realize.
well, look at my case, for example. I'm already 6'8" and pretty big, right? And it's
Sure.
not like I'm a mean person, but that's already kind of imposing. And then me getting mad is, really scary
Yeah.
because I'm much bigger and I don't realize that. And I didn't realize that for a long time. You know what I mean? Because when you're selfish and you're an idiot, you don't put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's like, but you have to know, okay, I pissed off a giant. Okay. That's not a good thing. It's like you got an angry Hagrid, Um, but the way to really deal with anger is to put yourself in someone else's mind, in someone else's shoes. Why are they angry with me? Or why am I angry with them? How can I connect with them and understand them? When you get that level of understanding, then that level of anger abates. I
Sure.
promise.
And some people are just dicks, and it's just best to stay away from them.
Yeah.
That's another way to deal with anger is just avoidance. Uh, Sometimes you can't avoid all the time, but the more you can avoid assholes in your life, the better off you are.
Yeah. I
Mm.
mean, it really is. It really is the truth. Like, I grew up with a lot of assholes, right? And I learned all the things not to do to people. Because you don't want to make them feel like shit. You know what I mean? And I don't know. A lot of people made me feel like shit when I was younger, even up till today, by being angry for no fucking reason. So don't turn around and do that to other people because then you're a dick.
Yeah, and you
You
don't
really
want to be
are.
a
Don't
dick.
be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
really.
moral of the story of this episode is don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. You have no idea the damage you're gonna do.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's going on in these people's heads. Look at all these how do I phrase it with the algorithm? Sandy Hook people, okay? You get situations like that because people didn't deal with their anger in the right way to those kids. And then that's what happened,
Or
right?
Columbine or
Whatever it was.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
deal is they left indelible marks on these people by their anger, and that
anger is a
anger
big
turned into
gateway to
something hateful.
nihilism, and nihilism is a great gateway to mass murder.
Look at the early 40s in Europe. That anger and nihilism, that disdain, that hatred made people out to be not human. So
Yeah.
those people that were doing those things had a level of anger so severe that they didn't even see them as human beings. That's where it goes. That's how far you can take it. You can take it to literal industrial scale murder. And that's what happened last century. They literally made murder a business because of their anger.
Yeah.
Or in the East with Mao, same thing. The anger was so ridiculous, it just became evil. It wasn't angry anymore. Angry becomes evil after a while, and it rots you. It ages you. Okay. You can think that
There's a
someone's much
story.
older than they are.
There's a story about Ho Chi Minh that he was visiting a city and he took this woman as an example and he literally took a sword, chopped her head off, sliced her stomach open, put her head in her stomach just
Yeah.
because
So,
he thought that her village was shit.
that gets a certain point across. And it's one of those things where anger not only warps your life, but everyone around you. I mean, look at that display you just spoke of.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
and
heinous.
that's and for what purpose? Just to prove a point or to say you're lesser than I am or I'm so angry at your people that I need to lash out at everyone regardless of what you've done or anger can become a very systemic issue as we've learned in World War II.
Yeah. I mean, so the deal is whatever anger and resentment that you have, I'm not telling you to let it go right now, but start the process
Don't be
because
an
it's
angry
worth it.
person. Don't be an angry person. Take it from us.
It's just not
It's
fucking worth it.
it'll rot you away like rust on steel.
It's not fucking worth it. It's not. The only one that's hurting is you.
Yeah.
You get consumed by that stuff, and it just you can think someone can be 50, and they look like they're 70. But a non-angry person can be 70 and look like they're 50.
Yeah.
Anger makes you much older. It makes you a hag, whether you're a man or a woman. You're an angry hag. And life's too damn short. It just is. It's too short. We blinked and now we're both in our mid 30s. I remember being a Catholic you like it was yesterday. It
Yeah,
was
me too.
15 years ago.
It seems like it was yesterday.
Remember everything about it. I remember that 2XL flannel jacket you always wore
Yeah.
with the pattern on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the studs and the camel lights.
Yep.
Those camel lights were good. The camel silvers.
Can't smoke anymore, but
No, me
yeah.
neither. But those were fun in college, let me tell you.
Yeah, they were.
I used to dip in his room a lot.
Yeah, he would leave his dip spit bottles in like under my pillow, like in random places in my room just to piss me off.
Yeah,
And they were the
that's
most
exactly right.
disgusting, foul things you could ever imagine. Just dip spit. That would make me angry.
Yeah, for good reason. It made me happy though. It made me very happy because he kept his room so clean, like so clean. It was impressive, and he was very ordered and organized, and he was diligent in his studies, and I was none of those things. I would stay in his room till like 5 in the morning,
We
and we would just watch stupid crap all day.
would watch Ong Bak 2.
Ting from Nang Prandu.
My name is Ting from Nang Padu.
Or Yip Man.
Yep, man.
Remember that one?
Yeah, that was the best.
That was the best in Opus, man. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You
But
want to talk about
before
a
we
guy who
get
had a right to be angry? Look at Master Yip. His whole
yeah.
life was ripped out in front of him. He's thrown in a slave camp.
And he
Dealt
was
with it without
actually
anger.
Bruce Lee's mentor.
He got
You know,
through it
to bring it
without
back
being
to
a
earlier in the
furious psychopath.
conversation, Master Yip taught Bruce Lee Wing Chun, and Bruce Lee came up with what was it, a Jeet Kune Do as sort of like a branch, his own branch of martial arts, and it's still taught today. He
Yeah.
harnessed his anger, and Yeah, that's the
So
best thing to do with
wrapping
it.
things up with this, you know, if you can't get rid of it, harness it, and if you can, let it go because it's not worth it, because then you'll just be a dick.
Yep, and don't be a dick.
All right, everybody. That's it on us, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thank you very much for watching.
All
Goodbye.
right. Bye.